In the quiet, sun-drenched village of Odena, surrounded by the gentle sounds of nature, lived an old man named Baba Oti. He was the village's oldest storyteller, a living library of tales and traditions, a man whose wisdom had guided generations. But as the seasons turned, so did the hearts of his people. The world outside Odena grew louder, faster, and more demanding. The villagers became busy, their minds filled with new worries and modern ambitions. And slowly, like a fading echo in the wind, everyone forgot Baba Oti. The young men and women of the village, once eager to hear his stories, would now walk past him without even a simple greeting, their eyes fixed on their own paths. The new village leaders, full of fresh ideas, dismissed his counsel, viewing his advice as relics of a bygone era. Even the children who used to gather at his feet now pointed and laughed at his old-fashioned tales, calling them silly and untrue. What was once deeply respected was now utterly ignored. Day after day, Baba Oti would sit alone under the ancient baobab tree, the very spot where he once held the entire village captive with his words. With weathered hands he would carve a small wooden flute, its mournful melody the only company he had. Then came the day trouble arrived. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, not with the promise of gentle rain, but with the fury of a forgotten god. A heavy storm, unlike any they had seen, descended upon Odena. The wind howled and tore at their homes, ripping thatched roofs from their frames. Frightened livestock broke free and ran wild into the chaos. The river, their source of life, swelled into a raging monster, threatening to swallow everything in its path. Panic gripped the village. People ran in every direction, shouting and crying, with no plan, no leader, and no hope. No one knew what to do. In the midst of the mayhem, as the chief watched his village crumble, a faint memory sparked in his mind, an old, nagging feeling. He remembered a story Baba Oti had told years ago, a warning about a storm just like this one, a story they had all laughed away. A sudden realization hit him like a lightning strike. A group of young men, their faces etched with fear, raced through the flooded pathways to Baba Oti's humble hut. They found him standing calmly at his doorway, leaning on his trusty walking stick, watching the storm as if it were an old acquaintance. He wasn't afraid. "I told you this storm would come," he said, his voice steady and clear, cutting through the noise. "But you forgot the warnings of an elder. You chose not to listen." He didn't wait for a response. He turned and began to walk, his steps slow but purposeful. The villagers followed him without question. He led them away from the rising water, up through a hidden, winding path on the hillside, a path only he knew, one he had walked as a boy. Once they reached the safety of higher ground, he didn't stop. He taught them how to dig channels and build barriers, using ancient, forgotten techniques passed down by their ancestors, methods that could divert the floodwaters and save what was left of their homes. As the sun began to break through the clouds, the storm passed, the river receded. The village, though battered, was saved. When the chaos subsided, the entire village gathered around Baba Oti. The chief stepped forward, his head bowed in shame. He looked into the old man's eyes, not with arrogance, but with profound regret. "Forgive us, Baba," the chief said, his voice thick with emotion. "We were foolish." Baba Oti looked at the faces around him, the same faces that had ignored him just days before. He saw not disrespect, but a newfound understanding. A gentle, knowing smile spread across his lips. It only waits for those who are ready to listen. From that day on, everything changed. The villagers worked together, not just to rebuild their homes, but to rebuild their community's spirit. They built a special, intricately carved seat in the center of the village square. They called it the elder's chair. And every morning Baba Oti would sit there, not alone, but surrounded by the young and old of the village, all of them eager to learn, to listen, and to remember. In forgetting their elder, the village had lost its guide and nearly lost everything. But in remembering him, they found their direction again. They learned that true strength isn't just in moving forward, but in honoring the wisdom that came before. Respect wisdom, honor the old, and always listen more. Thank you for watching, and if this story touched you, please subscribe for more.